welcome to my channel. My name is Creatrix and welcome to the world stage. Okay, if y'all do not know who I am, my name is Creatrix. Like I said, I am currently the highest ranking spiritual human on the face of the earth currently right now. Okay, and I can say that with my full chest because I have been developing a very strong relationship with myself, aka the Most High. Okay, everyone can identify as the Most High. All right. However, I've been creating this relationship with myself and the entity, which is a part of me, yet separate from me. Okay, hence why I can receive messages from this entity. Let me know that I am indeed currently the highest ranking spiritual being on the planet Earth. Okay, and I will let you know, or I'll continue to let you know how that happened, how that occurred. Okay, that was going to be the topic for today's episode. However, it's been put on my heart to speak about, I guess, a more urgent issue, or maybe we'll put it as it's a more relevant issue. Okay, and that is the understanding or the misunderstanding of the event that we refer to as slavery. Okay, that is the enslavement of African people. All right, and the perspective and take that I'm going to take on it for this episode is one that I know will be highly beneficial, okay, to African people, the African diaspora, and people of African descent. Okay, when I say African, I mean all of those things, okay? People who are African descent, the African diaspora, okay, people who have African ancestry, period, no matter what it is that you look like, right? But even more so specifically for African passing people, for Black passing people, for African Americans, all the different ways, Aboriginal, okay, all the different ways that you can say African person. All right, I'm going to give y'all a perspective on it. All right, you can take it or leave it. All right, it's a perspective that's coming from a place of truth, a place of love, okay, a place of good intentions. I'm not saying that it's not going to be triggering, because this topic always is, right? This topic is always going to be triggering to somebody, all right? Unless, which is one of the points that I'm going to make, unless you do the healing work to neutralize the trigger, to heal, right, the source of that trigger, right? Because so often, right, more times than not, matter of fact, I would be very surprised to find somebody who hasn't been affected by an African person who hasn't been affected by the enslavement of African people, colonization, okay, which I include in the slavery category. Okay, colonization is a form of slavery, but it goes even deeper, in fact, than slavery, because enslaving somebody, right, just means that somebody is in bondage, in perceived debt to you, right? But colonialism is the complete, destruction and abolishment of somebody's culture, language, how they perceive their view of themselves, of people who look like them, right? So colonialism, and it's so much more, right? So colonialism goes a lot deeper than slavery, and obviously it's lasted longer, right? Because colonialism had to happen before slavery. So yeah, I'm gonna give us a new perspective on it, and it might not be new. It might be something that you have already heard, but if it's something that you've already heard, I want to reinforce it and I want to discuss it, and I hope that y'all watching this can comment on the video. Let me know how it makes you feel. Let me know, your 2 cents on it. Okay. But I'm talking about this topic, right? Because I got a transmission. From the Most High, from my spirit guides. All right. From extraterrestrials, right? Because that's what they are. They are extraterrestrials. And alien is a derogatory term, so you'll never hear me saying alien unless I'm using the word alien correctly and not to refer to extraterrestrials, right? So I got the song "Wade in the Water," right? And if y'all are not living under a rock and you're American, especially if you're somebody of African descent, no shame if you don't know the song, but you must be living under a rock if you don't know the song, right? And it basically goes, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water, right? And if you look up that song, it speaks about how the enslaved African people would use that song to let other enslaved Africans know that when they escape, to use the river system, water, they need to travel in water, right? Wading is like walking through the water. They need to wade through the water so that their scent is undetectable by hounds, which the slave masters would use to find their property, or what they thought was their property, right? Which is escaped enslaved Africans. So I got that song and I'm like, all right, that's interesting. And so I meditated, pondered on it, and I just received a bunch of uploads. So and it made sense to me. It clicked to me, okay? And so I want to share this perspective with you because I feel that it ties in to what's happening in our society, okay? On the continent of Africa, in the diaspora, in the United States, right, and other places where African people exist, or highly melanated people who are of African descent. Like, we're literally everywhere, right? We're in India, we're in Asia, we're on every continent. Europe, literally, we are on every continent, including Antarctica. Okay, we are the first to circumnavigate the globe. We are the first to travel the distances that we have. Life itself started in Africa, and in particular East Africa, okay, in what they call the Rift Valley, which is located in Ethiopia, right? That's where scientists say life started, okay? And I'm getting that is the area. Yeah, that is correct. The area, right? And so we're the first to tap into the arts, tap into astrology, astronomy, mathematics, physics, metaphysics, spirituality, all of the sciences, which spirituality is a science, okay? All of the magic, all of that stuff, right? That was African people. And that's why you get African people everywhere. We are literally everywhere, right? So you can think of African people as the mother and the father of all of humanity, right? We have the oldest genetics, the oldest stories, the oldest civilizations, so on and so forth, okay? Even if older civilizations weren't necessarily on the continent, those civilizations were developed by Aboriginal people who have a closer tie to Africa, right? So Mesopotamia, native people in Australia, native people in South America, and all that all that stuff, right? There's always a connection back to Africa, and it makes sense, right? And you can look at the spirituality and tell that there's similarity. You can look at the actual art and what these people manifested. There's always a connection back to the motherland, period. Right? So we are the mother and the father, right? We are the oldest, right? We have the longest history on this planet. And so we've been playing victim for a very long time, right? Due to colonialism and slavery. And this is where it might get triggering for people, because the point of this video is to convey to y'all, the audience, and to myself as well. I'm speaking to myself and my subconscious, is that we've been playing victim for too long, when in actuality, we are 1000%. Okay, that's what they told me. We are 1000%, not 100%. We are 1000% directly responsible for our predicament. Our predicament in the world, our place in the world, our treatment in the world, our history, whatever it is that you want to call it, all right? We are 1000% to be blamed for colonialism and slavery, okay? And to think otherwise, it's ridiculous, because that's like blaming a toddler for having a bad attitude when their parent is the one that raised them. Do you get what I'm saying? So we can't put the blame on anyone else. If we are the parents, if African people are the parents, and everyone else is our offspring, our genetic offspring, then there's no one else to blame for our state as a people rather than us. And if you're somebody who's into the occult, or if you're into, if you're somebody who likes being in power and likes being in control of your life, okay, if you believe that you are in fact a being of the Most High, which I hope everyone desires or lives in that way, then you know it does not serve us a purpose to be in a victim mentality, okay? And if you look at historically, what happened, right? What happened? Where was the beginning of this? All right, before the colonialism, before the slavery, what happened, right? So African people literally birthed white people, okay? And we can call it albinism, okay? But genetically, there was a mutation, and more specifically, it was particular places throughout the African continent that this happened, different African villages, all right? There was a birth of a coming forth of people who looked different from their African mothers, all right? These were the Dravidians, what are now the Asians, what are now white people, right? They look different from their mothers phenotypically. And so they became shunned. The mothers were ashamed. They were embarrassed. They felt guilt for what had come out of their body. And on a wide scale, these children were rejected. They were rejected. They were left for dead, some of them. Okay. Some of them were, walked literally out of Africa, were taken out of Africa, were exiled, okay, for being who they are. And it's like African people, okay, these African mothers who birthed these phenotypically different children, and this is what I'm channeling. It was like a representation or a manifestation of their shadow self, right? It's a manifestation of the shadow self. And what I mean by shadow self, it's the part of them or us that they did not want to acknowledge. They didn't want to look at. They wanted to bury it deep, deep, deep down. And what does the subconscious do when you won't pay attention? Okay, because the subconscious is like, nah, you're not about to be ignoring me. So what does the subconscious do? It manifests itself. Right? If we don't address it, if we aren't proactive and we don't address what the subconscious is trying to show us, then the subconscious manifests itself. And they, like these children manifested, right? And that's not to say there's anything wrong with these children. It was our job, our duty. And when I say our, I literally mean us, the current representation of African descent, African diaspora individuals on this current time, in this current time frame. Okay, because we literally are our ancestors. There's no difference between us and our ancestors, because we reincarnate into the lineage that we came from. So I could be talking to somebody of African descent who literally was there during any point during colonization or slavery, right? So we still hold that trauma. That's why this cycle just keeps getting is repetitive, right? And the guides, the people watching the show, okay, like if you guys aren't familiar with why I called my channel The World Stage, is because we're literally on a stage, all right? And we are being watched by extraterrestrials, people in the spiritual realm, whatever you want to call it, right? Okay, we're being watched by God and all of these different entities. And man, this is their favorite show, all right? The reality Earth show is the shit, let me tell you. Lots of drama, lots going on, lots of backstabbing, lots of weird stuff, lots of happy stuff, lots of joy, all the emotions that are present here on Earth. Like, you can only imagine how many people tune in to the Earth show, okay? But they're bored of the same old story. That's why I'm here today. That's why I'm the channel here today, to bring you this information, because they're tired of the same old trauma, old story replaying out. Like, they want new energy, new vibes, right? And that only comes through healing. So that's why I'm talking to us as if we are the ones who experienced the actual enslavement and the actual colonization, because some of us still are experiencing a form of that colonization, that slavery. And also, we literally, our souls are the ones who did experience the onset and middle and ending of slavery, whatever that time frame is, right? And we're still carrying that trauma over into this lifetime, and it's just such a repetitive cycle, and they're over it. They're over it. They want a new channel. Like, they want a new the show must go on. All right, my thespians, like, you know what I'm talking about. The show must go on. Like, we need a new vibe. Okay, and so that's why I'm speaking about this, right? We need to take a look at ourselves, because the reason why we're being rejected by white people, while we're being mistreated by white people, while not even just white people, by everyone else, the reason why we keep getting smacked upside the head by other people and each other is because we're not paying attention. Okay, whenever the Most High and our guides cannot get our attention, like I said, with our subconscious refuses to be ignored. All right, and until we address the situation, it's not going away. So we are rejected, misunderstood, abused, misused, exploited by all these different people. Okay, meant to feel ugly, All right, so many different things, right? And we complain about it all the time. Why can't you guys just accept us? Why can't we be allowed to join your group or join this or join that? And the answer isn't necessarily escape and segregation, which I thought it was in the past. I thought segregation would be the way out of racial injustice and police brutality and all these different things. I thought segregation would be the best way, but we were segregated previously. We were segregated. Africa has a continent all on its own, but guess what? They'll come to you. They will come to you. They will find you, and they will terrorize you. All right, if they want to. And now they even have better ways of doing it. There's biological, chemical warfare. There's psychological warfare going on. They don't even have to lift a finger. Right? So segregation is not it either. And generally speaking, just a little cheat code for y'all. Generally speaking, running away from your problems is not the way to solve them. It's not the way to solve them, okay? We solve our problems head on. We deal with our problems head on. We examine the problem. We're curious about the problem. It's not even a problem. I look at it as a challenge, an obstacle, a challenge to be better, a better version of myself. A problem is always an opportunity to be a better version of yourself, right? So yeah, never run away from your problems. I don't care if it's like you have a car note past due, or you have financial problems, or your lover or something, your romantic partner isn't acting the way that you want, whatever it is, right? In order to find a real true solution, it requires patience. It requires calming your nervous system, and it requires solving or looking at the problem head on, not running away or escaping. Okay, so with that being said, right? I feel like I'm talking a lot. With that being said, okay, we need to face the problem head on and stop being victims, okay? Because we're not. This is our fault. We should take full accountability and responsibility, right? And I'm telling you this clear as day. No parables, no metaphors or anything like that. The Most High is giving it to you straight because we're over it. Like I said, they are over it, right? So we need to take accountability and realize it's all our fault. Why is it our fault? Because we are the most powerful. We are the most wise, genetically speaking, right? Powerful manifestors. The powers at hand, right? These unseen people, right? They are literally using our manifestation powers against us. Okay? They are feeding us this information that, even I channeled this message, even the cops, right? Even police brutality, the news covering it, all these social media talking about it and all that stuff is fueling it even more, because they're using it to manifest manifest it over and over. They're using it to manifest a cycle through us, because we are the master manifestors, right? So if we know who we are, right, how can somebody possibly come and somebody outside of us possibly come and put us in such a position that is so low? Nobody can do that. We did that. We are keeping ourselves low. We are making ourselves feel rejected. We are making ourselves feel misunderstood. Okay? So, like I said, we need to realize the history of things, right? Because we're the first ones to reject them. We're the first ones to misunderstand them. We are the first ones to exile them. So they, in turn, they've internalized that, right? Their DNA, their genetic makeup remembers the relationship that we fostered with them. Okay? They understand that, they know that. That's why behind closed doors, they're worshiping the Black Madonna. They're worshiping Black women, Black people in general, behind closed doors, but they can't help it because they know who we are. They want to be loved. They want to be loved by us. They're yearning for that relationship with the mother. They're yearning for that relationship with the father. They're originators. They're creators. They want us, but they feel so rejected, so mistreated, so abused that they've already asked. They've asked for this. They've wanted to be included. They've already asked for that, and we rejected them time and time again. So now they're coming with the hammer. They're coming with the hammer. Now they're not asking. Now they're taking. Now they're taking. If they could take our skin and live in our body, they would. They would, but they would not admit that to themselves because they're using cognitive dissonance to push that part of themselves down. And that's why it's manifesting as hate, as intolerance, right? So they have healing to do too, but the healing starts with us because we are the leaders. We're the leaders. We're the ones who show them how it's done. We are the teachers. We are the parents. We started this. We have to finish it. Okay. And in terms of, remember how I said that we are master manifestors? There's a lot of BS that's being fed to us as a people in order for us to continue manifesting their importance and this hierarchy, this racial hierarchy, right? A racial hierarchy does exist. And I'll just be blunt with it, right? And no offense to my non-African people. I love you. I love you. I really, truly love you. And I hope that you understand what I'm saying, but I have to be honest. I have to be truthful. Okay? In terms of a racial hierarchy, nobody's better than anybody. Let me let that be clear. Okay? Nobody is better than anybody. I don't care what skin color you are. And when I say racial hierarchy, I'm talking about the oldest, the wisest, the more genetic variation, the more genetic memory, all of that stuff. African people have to be at the top just because of the chronological order of things, right? But I'm not saying anybody is smarter or better or more skilled than anyone else. I think there's beauty in all different types of people, and I love all different types of cultures, and I want to learn all these different types of languages. All right, I learned a lot of Spanish as I was in Mexico for a couple months. Mandarin is something that I want to get into as well, Mandarin Chinese. But yeah, so I love everybody, and we're all connected. That's the truth, is that we're all connected. Okay, there is no one without the other. So the hierarchy thing is not important, but that's just to say that African people are the leaders, and every racial group and every nationality and ethnicity has their own niche in the world. They have their own niche. They have their own thing that they do amazing, right? But for African people, we are the leaders. Okay, we are the leaders. Period. Point blank. And we need to step up. And the reason why we're in this situation is because time and time again, we're deciding to fall back. We're deciding to let somebody else dictate what we want to manifest for the world. Because I'm not saying that all African people are angels, but what I am saying is that we could, if we wanted to, manifest a utopia for everyone, not just for ourselves. We could manifest a utopia for everyone because we are the leaders. Okay. And there was a really good message that I had just now, but I'm sure it'll come back to me. Yeah, it'll come back to me. But anyway, we have the power to do so, and we have to get out of this victim mentality. All right. I have to sneeze. One of the most important things that we can do in terms of healing is to figure out, first of all, I mean, we need to know ourselves individually, as individuals. Like me, Creatrix, I need to figure out who I am as a Creatrix. And we all need to do that on a grand scale, right? If you want to propel yourself into a better timeline, we need to do that. But then we need to be able, so once you have that foundation of who am I, then you can pick out what was implanted in my subconscious and what is actually a part of me and part of my ancestral DNA and like who I really am, truly, right? And then we can start to, as we destruct or dismember the parts of us that were manufactured to be this way, we are actually deconstructing and to be able to reconstruct our external reality as well. And African people are really good at this. We are really, really good at this. We are natural leaders, occultists. It's in our spirituality. It's built into our DNA. And that's why it's up to us to be able to do this. And also, I think this is what I was going to say earlier. Also, it's happening naturally, whether anybody likes it or not. So whether you hear my voice or you hear this video, this is what's happening in the energy. All right, surprise. This is what's happening in the energy, right? That's what my channel is all about. It's like, I like to think of this channel as like a news channel, right? You know how people like watch the news for information, but it's a bunch of BS. This is like a real news channel where I'm reading the energy and I'm telling y'all what's going on in the energy, all right? And I can channel to y'all so that things feel flowy, so we're not caught by surprise, or it can even confirm what you've already been feeling if you also read energy very well, and if you are able to observe this logically, right? So African people, or the world in general, is heading in this direction. We're going to stop asking to be in places that we already want to go, because we don't need permission. We don't need permission to enter the highest heights. We don't need permission to pioneer new things. Okay, and it's very important as African people that we listen to ourselves. Okay, and I'm talking about spirituality. This is a huge thing. This is, I guess, a topic for another video, because spirituality, African spirituality, is like a huge beast. But okay, how do I say this delicately? When we enter into spaces that were not built for us or are meant to reject us, and we have not tapped into our spiritual protection, we have not acknowledged our ancestors, we are not able to hear them and commune with them and conversate with them, if that's a word, when we're not able to speak to them and they can't tell us, hey, that's not a good idea, or be patient, wait for this to happen. That's when you get stuff like, I'm really picking up heavy on the music industry. That's when you get things like stuff. That's when you get like Nipsey Hussle. That's when you get Tupac. That's when you get Biggie, Michael Jackson, Prince. Who else? Marvin Gaye. And all these beautiful, different, amazing manifestors, right? Who manifested their way to the top, to these white only spaces or Asian only or whatever the case is, right? Who manifested their way to the top, but they were not connected to their spirituality. They still they still had more learning about themselves to do, right? They get themselves stuck. They sign contracts that they're not supposed to. Conventional money where, they get money, but it's under pretenses. Like, for example, Prince and Michael Jackson are still gagged in life after death. Michael Jackson came to me in a dream and he couldn't even speak. He was like, he was trying to tell me something. He came and he sat on my bed and I looked at him and I was waiting for him to tell me something, and he was just like he wanted to tell me something, but he couldn't. That's because of a gag order that was put on him because of something he agreed to in his lifetime. He still can't tell me the truth. He still can't tell me what he wants. So our relationship with our ancestors, with our guides, with ourselves, first and foremost, is so important as African people. But when you let other people implant an identity in you, that creates a rift. That creates, like what do they call it? A schism. A schism, right? And as we ascend spiritually, the left and right hemispheres of our brain start to mesh. Like, how they're separate right now in a sense? They're connected, but they're separate. There's a left and right hemisphere of our brain. But when you ascend, they fuse together. As you ascend, they fuse more and more together, right? But when you have an identity crisis and you don't know who you are, but you're still a master manifester, right? That's still in your DNA. But, like Michael Jackson, for example, but he has an identity crisis that causes a further separation of the left and right brain, and that leaves us open for even more and more and more attack, right? So it's very important. Like this a lot of our issues as African people comes from feeling rejected by the very people that we have rejected. So I'm not saying people who brutalize African people are in any way, shape, form correct. Hurt people, and those hurt people, and it's just like this vicious cycle. But it honestly goes back to the same thing. And you'll hear me say this on this channel over and over and over again. The answer is always healing the self, healing thyself, heal from within. Okay, emotionally, physically, mentally, you have to heal yourself, and you are the only one who can do that. Therapy will help. Looking up YouTube videos will help. All of that stuff will help. Tapping into your guides will help. But ultimately, that's something that you have to do, and nobody else can do the work for you. Okay, and yeah, I'm not saying when somebody comes for your family to just take it lying down. That's not what I'm saying for people who are misunderstanding. When I talk about love, right, we have to meet the situation with love. If somebody attacks somebody I love, it's a problem. It's a problem, but I know that for me, that will never happen. I completely have no fear of ever being attacked or hurt or any of that, because I have such a deep connection with my guides and my ancestors. I know where I came from and I know where I'm headed. Yeah, Ori all the way down to my feet. So it's very important to connect with our spirituality, to connect with our guides, to create these alliances, because this game of life really is rough. It's rough if you want to look at it that way, if you want to perceive it as that way. If you want to make life much easier, cheat code, get your alliances together with these extraterrestrials, because that's what they're here for. They want that. They want you to reach out to them. They want you to allow them to work in your life. Okay, they need permission, because they could be doing great things in your life, and if you're resistant to it, right, because you're traumatized and you're unhealed and you have low expectations and low standard of yourself, then it's all going to be for nothing. They're going to do all this work, and for what? They don't want to work for someone who's not going to be willing to meet them halfway. So yeah, I know I touched on a lot of different topics here, but the main point of this video is to address the trauma that us Africans have created ourselves. And I'll say that with my chest. Once again, us Africans have created our own trauma in the form of colonization, in the form of slavery. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. All is well, all is good, all is perfect. Okay, I want to make that so clear, because the Most High, right, is so amazing and so intelligent that it always has, like I said, a million reasons as to why it allows something to happen. Okay, they do not perceive pain, suffering, hurt the way that we do, right? And when you reach a certain level of understanding, you won't either. You will see pain and suffering as a leg up. You'll see trauma as a leg up once you reach a certain level of understanding, right? In occult knowledge. But the Most High is actually using the pain and call it like the Most High didn't cause it. Let me get this straight. Let's get this straight. The Most High didn't allow or didn't cause colonialism and slavery. Nobody did. We created that. As like I said, African people created that. All right. They had nothing to do with that. Like, what do they look like intervening? Like, we're fighting ourselves. We're having an inner battle with ourselves. What do they look like trying to convince us to stop? They did that already. They tried to convince us to stop. But if we don't want to listen, they can't do nothing. They can't do nothing. We are the physical beings here. Okay, but the point I want to make is that the Most High is going to use this trauma that has accumulated over time, right? Like, just think about how deeply devastating colonialism and slavery is to the human psyche, to our bodies, to our physical, mental, spiritual health, right? But what the Most High does is the Most High is going to put all of that trauma in a slingshot and is going to use that trauma and pain and hurt and all of those emotions to energetically slingshot us into a future where I don't even know. I don't get to see that. I'm picking up that they're not letting me see that because it's going to be such a beautiful surprise. I am picking up, though, for a lot of you watching, the next time you come back to Earth, we are totally going to be in a different vibration, a different, like, basically African people are going to be put back on our throne, period. You heard me. African people are going to be back on the, I was about to curse, mother effing throne. Okay? We have already manifested that, and the Most High is going to help us do it. So yeah, ultimately, I hope that this video was able to shift y'all's perspective and to look at things in a positive light. And I hope that this video left you feeling better about this topic than you felt about it previously. Okay, because only good things are coming towards us as a whole, as a people, okay, on this planet Earth, right? We have a lot of great things to look forward to. And I am channeling a message to Erica Mena, okay? Erica Mena, yeah, the one, she's some type of celebrity. I think she was on Love and Hip Hop. She was on, she's a reality TV show person or whatever. And the Most High has heard your prayers, okay? The Most High has heard your prayers, and I know that you're feeling depleted. Just surrender to the energy, okay? Because it's going in that direction anyway. What's depleting you is you are hanging on, you're gripping to what you know and understand, and what gives you the illusion of safety. All right. And that's what's making you depleted, is you're trying to resist. All right. Just surrender. And surrender doesn't mean quitting. It doesn't mean staying in bed all day and being depressed and feeling overwhelmed. And it's okay to feel those things, but ultimately, surrender does not mean quitting. It just means letting go, going with the flow. All right, surrendering to the energy that all good things are happening. Okay, so Erica Mena, that message is for you. So yeah, I hope y'all have a beautiful, wonderful day, night, evening, afternoon, whatever the case is, and I will see y'all in my next video. Creatrix out.